Alternative, I'm William Cook. A week ago tonight, I was sitting down here to do an album roundup for the month of February. I sat down and I spent over 2 hours filming. I had, 26 albums and I believe 7 EPs that I talked about. Yeah, and I spent legit over 2 hours doing it. I decided it would be a wonderful idea to put together my ratings for the albums throughout the month. And instead of putting together notes on these albums that I wanted to talk about, just winging it. Just be like, hey, you know what? At the end of the month, I'll do a quick album roundup. I'll look at the ratings, I'll look at the albums and the tracks, and just tell you off the top of my head my thoughts on these albums. And I'll tell you, that made for one hell of a painful filming experience. And then the editing process too was a bit of a nightmare, and I learned a lesson from it, because at the end of it all, after spending every night last week editing away my cheap video editor system, VSDC, that I don't pay for, it crashed. It could not handle it, and I could not even reopen the file. And you know, I was pretty disappointed, but at that point, it was almost like a relief, because it was a sign that no, that's not the way to do things. An album roundup, 26 albums and 7 EPs in one video, wasn't fun to film, wasn't fun to edit, and the thing just crashing on me just told me, like, William, scrap that. Too much. Unfortunately, it means that video will never see the light of day, and those albums that I talked to throughout February will, I won't be sharing my thoughts on those albums. What I can do right now is share this screenshot of the albums and the EPs that I put together ratings for. So at least you can see my album and EP ratings. So yeah, that was my month of February in a nutshell. And some of those albums on the list are actually albums that came out as far back as January 28th. So my albums of February isn't necessarily just February. I kind of keep it on a 4-week schedule from the 28th right through to the 18th. That was my February roundup. And if I was going to continue doing a monthly roundup, my next month here for March would be February 25th through to March 18th. So 4 weeks, 4 Fridays, 4 new music Fridays. But I'm scrapping the monthly roundup, and I would like to switch to a weekly roundup. So I've already got 5 albums from the week of February 25th that I want to talk about now, instead of holding on to those albums all the way until the end of the month here and doing them in a monthly roundup. Get them out of the way right now while they're a little bit fresh. I'm still a little bit behind. I have some catching up to do, but for now we're going to focus on the 5 albums that I was listening to from the week of February 25th, from the worst to the best. And these albums, yes, I actually put together some notes for, because I found out that I'm best off having notes about what I want to say about these albums instead of just trying to wing it off the top of my head. I tell myself, hey, I do a lot of reactions to songs, and that's all unscripted, and why not talk about the albums unscripted? But no, you gotta put down some notes and the kind of stuff you want to say. So yeah, I've got some notes on these albums here, not getting too detailed on my reviews, but sharing what I want to share about these albums. It all begins with a new discovery for me, Buzzard Buzzard Buzzard. Their album Backhand Deals. This is the one band out of this group of 5 that is a totally brand new discovery for me. Every week I like to jump online and take a look at the new album releases and just look at album arts that jump out to me as like, hey, that looks like something that I'd vibe with. And the Buzzard 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 album here really stood out to me with its polished look and artwork. Definitely jumps off the page, and I had to dive into this band. And I was a bit surprised to find out that these guys are a 70s inspired rock band. They're from Cardiff, Wales. And yeah, this music screams 70s. As a guy who's never been too on top of 70s rock music, it's great to have a band here in 2022 exposing me to this sound. I find they do bring a fresh, polished sound to the retro rock style. And despite being outside of the musical realm that I'm used to, they bring in some great hooks. It's a lively, fun performance. Their vocalist, Tom Reese, is incredible. He sounds like he's come straight out of the 70s, honestly. Now, the song New Age Millennial Magic, that was the lead single, came out, I believe, in the spring of 2021. And it's the opening track, a great introduction to this band, and just a really strong showing of what this album has to offer. The mid-album track, Break Right In, is a standout, very catchy verses. That leads to my favorite hook of the album. You is another notable standout. They got that jabbing group sung chorus, and it really sounds like an instant classic. And I am really satisfied with a bunch of this album. Good Day, Crescent Man versus Demolition Man, On the Kill Again, other songs that definitely hold their strength, all got the solid good rating for me. Don't have much else to add on top of those. But there are several songs on here that hold this album back from a higher rating. because of my subjective opinion on this type of music. Very subjective. I can only be subjective with my opinions. And this type of music, you know, I can hear that it's great stuff, but when I subjectively listen and put my own opinion on this type of stuff, I definitely just can't see myself giving a few of these songs more than that okay rating. We got the song Yourself. It has a lush and expansive sound, great horns to it, but I do find it's a bit too much of a drag, and that does work against it. It's length, and really throughout that stretch of time, the melodic bite of the song just doesn't come through for me. You know, for me, melody is always going to be that deciding factor of if a song is going to get a higher rating. It can impress me on an instrumental level, and these guys really do impress me all around on the instrumental and the overall sound. But the melody is where this type of sound does struggle. Another one of note, Feel the Change. You know, great piano. You got this upbeat pull with splashing hi-hat. But again, just not pulling me in with that melody. But yeah, while some misses, some songs that I just can't really pull much out of, there are definitely some stronger takeaways. Nothing absolutely amazing for me, but like I said, really cool to hear a band doing this sound in 2022, and I'm very glad I got exposed to this band called Buzzard Buzzard Buzzard. The album gets a rating of 6.70. I will be rating these albums with 2 decimal points because I do tend to find that a lot of my ratings end up, you know, being really close call where it's just that second decimal that does separate one album from another, and that comes up here in these 5 albums as well. Okay, next up, we have another band that it's my first album with them, though not technically a brand new discovery for me, Mom Jeans, their album Sweet Tooth. This California emo punk group, they came across my radar just last year, so yeah, not a brand new discovery, but pretty recent for me. I'd say that if you're a fan of the band The Front Bottoms, this is a band I'd recommend for you. It's their 3rd album, and while there is a bit of a playfulness to this type of music, it's also pretty depressing. You got some self-deprecating lyrics, themes of heartbreak, seems very, very lovesick. But there is this liveliness to the music. They bring in horns. The singer plays trombone, apparently, and the drummer plays the trumpet. So you definitely hear those additions within this album. And the vocalist isn't particularly that great, but it is definitely the type of vocal that's well suited for this type of music. But still, those vocals do tend to wear on me a bit, especially when the melodies aren't quite there to back the vocals up. The melodies do tend to struggle to come through for me through a lot of these songs. It is some relatable stuff though. Like I said, there is some humor, some playfulness to find within the depressing lyrics. And I'd say it is a good album for anyone coming out of a bad breakup. I'm not really in that stage of my life right now, but I can see a lot of these songs being a bit more meaningful if you were coming out of a bad breakup. And, you know, I really didn't have much to say about any of these songs except for the one big standout, the must-hear song from this album. And even this one couldn't quite reach that perfect 4 rating for me. It was the lead single. I believe it was the lead single. It was the first song that introduced me to this band back in 2021. And I remember it came out. I was like, oh, I kind of like the sound, but it's kind of fallen short for me. I tossed it to the side, and it wasn't really until the album came out that I spent a little more time with it and realized, no, this is a very, very strong track. That's the song What's Up, and yeah, like I said, the only song to really push things into great territory on this album. Really shows off the best side of this band's sound, and I hope they can push out more stuff like that in the future. The album at the end of it all is going to get a rating of 6.83. All right, next up, Johnny Marr, Fever Dreams, Parts 1 through 4. Parts 1 and 2 he released as EPs back in 2021. I'm familiar with the singles, but I don't think I dived into either of the EPs. I certainly didn't put together reviews for them. And yeah, there was no Fever Dreams Part 3 EP or a Part 4 EP. He just put out the album with the 2 EPs from 2021, both 4 songs each, and then added on another 8 songs, another 2 4-song EPs on top of that. Johnny Marr, I'm not exactly sure how I came across him. He's not really the type of artist that I'd actively seek out. He's an English singer-songwriter, most well known for being the former guitarist and the co-songwriter for the Smiths, a band I never listened to. It's his 4th solo album, and yeah, the music, it's new wave, Brit rock, kind of Oasis vibes, I guess, as a guy who doesn't know much Oasis. And yeah, his music really not exactly the pop rock kind of stuff that I am generally going towards, but he does have the song Spiral Cities off of 2018's Call the Comet. That song is a big deal for me. It's a massive track, and it's a big running track that is a staple on my running playlist. And, you know, a song like that, an artist gives me a song that does that much for me. It gives me reason to keep an eye on them. And this album, it shows that promise. Nothing giving me quite that amount of energy as Spiral Cities here, but still a worthy group of tracks. As you can see from the track ratings, you got several songs on here that just fall into that okay, pretty good range. Songs that I really don't have much to say about, but I do have some notes on a few of these songs. Tenement Time, easy catch, a strong rock pull throughout that one. Night and Day is one of the biggest standouts. I'd say it holds about the stickiest hook of the album, and I really like the kind of darker energy to the track. It's actually on the third part of the 16-song album. If you're breaking it into the 3 EPs, it's on the third EP where I find myself really pulling the most out of this group of songs. Because following Night and Day, we have Counterclock World, the main backbone of that song, that catchy acoustic guitar riff, and the chorus is about as breezy and feel good as the album gets. And then Rubicon. I was not expecting to hear a song like this from Johnny Marr. It's built around this ambient atmosphere that I haven't really heard much in Johnny Marr's music before. And I really appreciate the overall mood of the track, some of the spoken word elements to it. Definitely holds a real feeling to it. It has a slow build to it, and it never fully breaks open into anything quite spectacular. And I was hoping the song might take it to that level, might rip open to something really impactful. But even though it doesn't quite hit that moment for me, I just love the mood of this track. That's about it for the real noteworthy songs off of this latest album from Johnny Marr. But, you know, for a older rock artist like this, making music that really is not quite up my alley, he proves that he is a very talented songwriter and knows how to pull off some pretty strong songs. And this album still has me encouraged to keep an eye on this guy. It gets a rating of 6.88. Okay, I put down some more notes here for these final 2 albums of February 25th. The first of those 2 being the latest album from Avril Lavigne, Love Sucks. She hardly needs an introduction. Canadian pop punk, one of the, you know, first artists that I remember hearing on the radio, on Much Music back in my preteen years. She was a leading artist in the pop rock, pop punk scene of the 2000s. Yeah, her singles from back in the day were massive. I could hardly think of any song from her that was a big single that I really did not enjoy. You know, when it came to the Girlfriend era, I guess that's when I was like, oh, she's sold out. She's not, you know, not the same as her early day material, Complicated, I'm With You, that kind of stuff. But Girlfriend at this point, you know, that's a catchy track. And I never actually did end up listening to any of her albums back in the day. So this marks my first album with her 7th album. And I'll tell you, I had a lot more fun with this than I was expecting. I got something to say about pretty much every song on this album. I didn't write any notes for Cannonball, the opener. But off the top of my head, a solid open to the album. Lots of fun on these tracks. And Cannonball starts it off with a pretty big bang, I'd say. Boys Lie with MGK, massively infectious hook. They sound great together. Bite Me as the lead single, I was surprised how heavy she went with that song. It's got that workout energy. The chorus comes in hard, man. There's a real heavy delivery to that track, and while it does, and a lot of these songs, nothing really has the substance for me to really push to that perfect 4, but this song, I can't deny the absolute heaviness of the delivery, and it really just has that grit to it that makes that chorus super powerful. On the downside, Love It When You Hate Me. I had a reaction for this song, and of all the songs to share a reaction for, one of the worst songs of the album. You know, it's got a stupid catch to it, and it's one of those hooks that is not pleasant to have lodged in the head, but of all the songs I listened through this album, that's probably the most likely to get stuck in my head, and I'm not happy about that. Just a little too shrill for me. Love It When You Hate Me. It just definitely grates on me to the point where I'm like, no, as catchy as it is, as much as it just gets stuck in my head, I'm gonna just call that an okay song. Now, Love Sucks, the title track, kind of similarly to Love It When You Hate Me, a little bit shrill for me, a little kiddish with the na na na. But honestly, I can't deny again just how catchy and playful and fun that chorus is. And it really does have this kind of explosive energy that does pull me in. And right now, you know, I've landed on a 2.5 rating. These things fluctuate sometimes. Who knows? Maybe over time that rating could change, but as for the album rating here, I've stamped it with a solid 2.5. Then again, on the first half of the album, another song that just can't break into the good territory with Kiss Me Like the World Is Ending. Just nothing too noteworthy. Keeps up the energy. It just lacks a memorable hook. Really, of all the songs on this album, that song there I find is the most plain. But then we move into the album's second half, and I find this is where the album really picks up its momentum. You've got such a strong stretch of songs here with Avalanche, Deja Vu, and FU. Avalanche really packs in the feeling with its chorus. It really packs in a lot of weight with the stomping drums in the chorus that lead into the main Avalanche refrain that increases with power with each round. And man, it really ends up leading to some huge, epic kind of emotion that I find is super, super powerful. It's hard to say which one of these is my favorites when it comes to Avalanche, Deja Vu, and FU. They might just get better with each one, because Deja Vu, another smashing chorus, lots of weight behind it. And it just works as another pump-up song that really has a way of ripping into me with a lot of strength. And it does not let up with FU, another massively impressive song, a flying hook. So much fun. You're definitely going to feel some of the Blink-182 vibes on this album, and she brings on the one and only Mark Hoppus on All I Wanted. Nice addition. Mark really stands out, you know, especially compared to the other features. You got MGK on the album, Black Bear, but with Mark Hoppus popping up, it's like, oh, wow, there he is, and it's great to hear him on here. But otherwise, All I Wanted, it's a pretty unremarkable song. But then we get the ballad of the album with Dare to Love Me. And really, I could not have asked for much better than this when it comes to a slow song from Avril Lavigne. I honestly get I'm With You vibes from this track. It is executed wonderfully. The feeling is genuine. That chorus is so strong. Tons of feeling, tons of melodic power. And it's just so nice to be able to see, like, wow, you're still pulling off something like that here. That's really impressive. And to give me little hints of I'm with you even, it's like, oh man, there's the old Avril. And I love to hear it. The album closes on a bit of a meh note with Break of a Heartache. Fun punk song to finish the album with, but not on the same melodic level as the stronger songs. You know, despite being a good finish to the album, it's always fun to, you know, do that penultimate slow song and then finish off with just a fun track, and that's exactly what she does here. But yeah, as much as it works within the album, not a song that has a lot of replay value for me. So definitely some songs that I could go without on this album, and you know, when it came to rating, I just couldn't find myself giving these songs, any of these songs, a perfect 4. I was really tempted with all of those Avalanche, Deja Vu, and FU, and Dare to Love Me. You know, all those songs were considerations for that perfect 4. And maybe I am just a little bit too much of a harsh rater. I do have my doubts when it comes to rating. It's tough to put a number on these songs, but I like to put a number on an album, and the way that I do it is rate each song and adds up, so I don't really have to put too much thought into the overall album rating. I just have to put a thought into each of the individual songs, you know, and I just couldn't quite give any of them a 4, which is holding this album back from having a stronger rating. It ends up at a solid 7.29. So moving on to my favorite album from February 25th. I'm just looking at the other albums that have led up to this. We've had our 70s rock influence, our emo punk, our new wave Brit rock, and then our Canadian pop punk Avril Lavigne. And it's cool to see that all these albums definitely have their own genre. Because this album definitely not fitting into any of those genres. We got Bad Omens with The Death of Peace and Mind. It's the third album from this Virginia metalcore band, my first with the band. A band that I became aware of a couple years back. Their song Limits is the one song I knew from them, but it wasn't until they released the lead single, the title track, The Death of Peace and Mind, here late last year, that I really got invested in their music. The Death of Peace and Mind was my number 15 song of 2021. And that song, that music video, that is a piece of art. And I'm proud to call it one of my top 20 songs of 2021. It's just a massive, massive, massive song. You got to check out the video. If you haven't seen it, you've got to check out the music video. It's an example of a song that's like, hey, great track, but put on an epic music video with it, and it just elevates it to new heights, and the video is spectacular. Spectacular. The band, modern metalcore, very clean, very big melodies, the perfect balance of heavy and melodic for a listener like myself. And the title track is the big stunner. Nothing beats that song. But the whole first half of this album, the whole first chunk really, more than just the first half, is very strong. You get the hard rock drive of Nowhere to Go, an explosive and passionate chorus for Take Me First. Like a Villain, a fellow single, really shows off Noah Sebastian, the lead singer's vocal talents. He's got this great lighter delivery, but there's a ton of strength to his voice. The range he has, the power he has at controlling whether he wants to be lighter or really powerful or even into the screamo, he can do it all. And yeah, he delivers tons of strength in the fantastic chorus for Like a Villain. Though I do find the little breakdown in the bridge for Like a Villain very similar to what they do on Death of Peace in Mind. Very similar. I love the passion in his delivery on Just Pretend, another wicked chorus, and I'd love to see if he can deliver that same amount of power in a live setting. One of the later singles, The Gray, that song rips. The opening instrumentals get me really hyped up, you know, when the song can come in and just be like, oh yeah, here we go, this song. Every time when that song starts up, it really gets me invested. And just another smashing chorus. But the next stretch of the album, that's where it starts to lose me a bit. Who Are You, taking the slow, synth-backed drum pad route. You know, it does work as a decent breather after all the heavier stuff leading up to it, but aside from that, it really doesn't do much else. Similarly, Somebody Else continues that energy with some more subdued electronic elements, and really just slides on by without leaving much of a mark. They do pick things back up with I Don't Want the Money. You know, it does give off some Bring Me the Horizon energy. The chorus has some pull to it. I do appreciate the pretty inventive bridge breakdown that includes some electronic elements to it, but it really just isn't getting me quite as hooked as I am with the earlier songs. Not too wild about the techno-leaning What Do You Want From Me? And the closer, Miracle, that one holds the most BMTH energy. I know this band has been called the American Bring Me the Horizon in the past, but a song like Miracle has me wishing that they would kind of do a little bit more to try and avoid those comparisons. And I'd say they do avoid those comparisons on most of these songs, Artificial Suicide being one of them. Though yeah, there are bits of cleans within Artificial Suicide that do still hold a bit of that Ollie Sykes type of sound. But outside of those cleans, there's nothing about this song that has me thinking about BMTH. I love the screams we get from Noah on this song. It's the heaviest song of the album. And you know, despite those vicious screams, the chorus that they pack in is super infectious. So yeah, looking at my track ratings here, man, that whole first chunk of the album holds up very strong. And yeah, the back half definitely holds its weaker moments, pulls through with the penultimate Artificial Suicide, and ultimately just a sound that I love. I love this sound, man. I'm not a metalcore channel, but I do find albums that just hold the upbeat, pump up, rock energy. I'm a rock fan, man. I like my big songs. I like my big melodies, my big heavy songs. And I find Bad Omens, like I said, man, this perfect balance between heavy and melodic. That's definitely gonna get me going, get me worked up, get me feeling the music, and I definitely have a great time with this album. Still, unfortunately, only one song with the Death of Peace in Mind there that was able to get that perfect 4, and some songs that did hold this album back. It ends up at the solid, good rating of 7.5. So yeah, of these 5 albums, nothing broke past 7.5. I always say the albums that make it over a 7.5, that's when we're really pushing into the more top tier albums. But if you can get above a 7, I say, yeah, hey, that's a good album for sure. And nothing terrible within these 5 albums, you know, nothing that fell below a 6.5. I've already been working on ratings and reviews here for albums from week 2. A little teaser, I'm going to be talking about the new album from the band Peach Pit. We got new Band of Horses, and an album I'm especially excited to put together my thoughts on, the new one from Belmont. Those are all albums that came out on March 4th, and I'll be getting around to talking about those ones on my next weekly album roundup video. As for now, though, we'll wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this new format, man. You know, I do a lot of reaction videos, and I actually am hoping to maybe film up a couple here tonight. But I did start this channel with the goal of talking about all the music I'm listening to, doing album reviews. And yeah, I find myself just needing to share my thoughts on these albums in one way or another. So I'm happy I can sit down here and talk about them with you. So thanks for checking this out. Love a thumbs up if you liked what you saw. Hit the subscribe for more alternative content and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you thought of these albums that I talked about in this video. Let me know if there's any albums I missed from the week of February 25th. Love to chat. I'll see you next time.